to the moms who are in fear. And I'm telling you, it's the right thing to have. That fear is proper to have because it's things you shouldn't be doing. But then you got to ask yourself, is there a higher calling to this? And there certainly is. You have to give this knowledge to your children to be able to battle what we've got going on. And that's by advocating. You're not helping. You're working, working to make it worse for us all. So what you do is you teach what you know, and you're a student of what you don't know. Since I know so little, because every time I learn something, I realize I don't know nothing. I have barely scratched the surface. But how you learn and how you multiply your knowledge is by dividing.
Hi, moms. Welcome to Christian Homeschool Mom Podcast. I'm your host, Eve Owens. I'm a wife to James, a homeschooling mom of 5, and a coach helping Christian moms start their homeschool journey with faith, peace, and confidence. This is a space where we can come together to encourage, equip, and empower fellow moms who are raising godly children in this ungodly world. Whether you're a parent, a homeschooling mom, or someone seeking inspiration, I hope my experiences resonate with you. I invite you to listen in, reflect on your own story, and perhaps you'll find some encouragement today. We'll dive into practical tips, inspiring stories, and biblical wisdom that will help you navigate this beautiful, challenging, and rewarding path. So grab your tea or coffee or a glass of water, sit back, and let's grow together in faith. Welcome back, moms. And today I have a special guest. He's an author. He's also a former educator who homeschooled his own children. And he's actually in the Philippines at the moment, where I am originally from. So I'm glad to have him today. Tommy Kilpatrick, welcome to this podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Tommy, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Oh, sure. I'm a retired teacher and an author, and I came here to the Philippines to teach farmers how to build dome houses out of bamboo, so it's free housing, and also how to teach them vertical gardening. So I want to get away from bending over like we've done for 10,000 years. You can produce a lot more food vertically, and also to help them open up self-managed medical care clinics. And that's what I had done in America. So I want to bring that knowledge here, and so that's why I'm here in the Philippines. And to finance this, I have written a book. It's on Amazon. It's called Forgive and Forget: How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. So, but that's how we kind of got connected. And then we were talking about homeschooling. So that's what I'm here for, to talk about my experiences and to encourage your listeners to continue the homeschooling and the benefits and some of the pitfalls and questions that you might have. And so let me share my experience, and it was a wonderful experience being a homeschooling dad.
Thank you. You mentioned there, of course, you were a former educator and then you homeschooled your children. If you can just share a little bit about your journey to us, please.
Sure. I was married at 30, and my wife was Jewish, and we agreed to have a Judeo-Christian upbringing, but we focused on the Judaism. And that's where we also had met through sign language. And I saw her using her hands. I said, "Do you know sign language?" And she said, "Yes." And she said, "How did you learn?" I said, "Well, I learned at university." "And how did you learn it?" She said, "That I'm a nurse, and that's how I learned it, and teaching it and using it in my nursing." So that's how we met. And so we agreed to actually be homeschooling and to be full-time parents. And so when my son was 4, he was able to know about 110 signs, so he could communicate to us without knowing the English language. So his first language is sign language. And then with a little bit of Spanish, I had spent time in Spain, so I'm fluent in Spanish. And then actually he got a little bit of Spanish, but mostly the English was after he could really comprehend and do things better with his voice. So in the very early stages, he knew that. Then he would teach his sister, and so she came along 2 years later. And so it was I was in the beauty industry, and I was teaching the beauty students how to do reflexologies, massage in the hands and the feet. And so I was an educator
Yeah.
privately that way. And then it led into teaching other people how to be instructors. So I had instructors working for me, and so it was quite an extensive nationwide business that I had operated. And it was all part-time, but a full-time dad. And that was the same thing with my wife being a nurse. And that's where I saw in the hospital, when we were first dating her, is that 1/4 of all those nurses were Filipinos. So I know it's culturally
Yeah.
and part of your uh, society to take care. And again, that's another reason to come to the Philippines. I say in their language, Naga Pangita sa asawa. I came here looking for a wife, and so I'd have engagement. It's not we'll be together for a year, then we'll tie the knot, stuff like that. But I want to be able to give her security and pension, and she gives me what I need, care, and I give her the care, and so it's a perfect relationship, especially when the Filipinos are so devoted to family, and that's what I don't have in America, and that's what I didn't have for many years as a family. So now I have a huge extended family that loves me, and I love them, and I'm speaking the language. So maybe you can have me on later about my new book, How to Speak Hiligaynon in 30 Days, which I did.
I don't even know how to speak Hiligaynon. I know because in the Philippines we have loads of dialects. We have, as far as I
Oh,
remember, we
yeah.
have over 100 dialects in the Philippines. Let's say my parents, they are from Samar and they speak Waray, so it's a different dialect compared where I was born in Manila. So you kind of like speak the Tagalog, it's the
Right.
national
That's
language
my
where everyone can, understand each other
right.
mostly, so
Mostly.
aside
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
English, because Filipinos, even though they speak different dialects, we kind of like were taught how to speak English since, from small child, because you were taught in the school as well how to speak that. It was kind of like became like
Oh,
your
yeah.
second language in a way. So that's great. But looking looking back, what was your decision? Like, why did you decide to homeschool? What was your why? Because this is what's one thing I always kind of like say to moms and Tommy. I believe when you start homeschool, it's very important to know what your why is. If I would ask you, what was your why did you choose to homeschool? Because I mean, you're an educator. Why would you choose that?
Right.
Just a personal
Um,
question. Yeah.
oh, sure. It's personally from my experience of school. I don't know what your experience was of public school, but
Yeah.
mine was, I did very well. I can regurgitate the facts and feed it back to them. I tested well, but it was just boredom. It was a useless time for me. Um, I entered school at 4 years of age. I was ready, and so they forged a baptismal, and the pastor was very nice. So he put created a new document for me to go to school at 4, and so I was always a year behind. They were always older than me, and that was a little bit of a problem. But then I graduated early at 17, and I wanted to get out of high school. I started working right away, and I had my own apartment within about 2 months after leaving high school in January, and I just turned 17, and I was an insurance investigator. And so after about a year of that, I'm looking around and I'm going, do I want to do this for 30 or 40 more years? And I'm going, so I'll go to college and I'll be a CPA, a certified public accountant like my dad, and I'll
Yeah.
take over his practice and I'll do it for the money, which is exactly the wrong reason to go to college. But then my high school counselor had taught a psychology class at City College, and I took a class from him, and I love psychology. So I was a double major, abnormal psychology, and that's where I spent time at Napa State Mental Hospital. Not as a patient. I had a key, so I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
leave.
Are you sure?
To
Okay.
be clarified, yeah, I could leave,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but then that I worked with autistic children. They were describing the different wards that you could go to, and they wouldn't talk about number 7. They moved on, and I said, "What's number 7?" Oh, these kids are psychotic. They don't interact with you. They won't even know you're there, so it's a big waste of time. What word do you want? I said, "I'll pick 7." Okay, they gave me the key, and it was bedlam. It was crazy. It was a
Yeah.
truly
Yeah.
insane asylum. But I did what they did, and I connected with them. And a psychiatrist came over and said, "We've never seen anyone connect to these children like you have." And what I did is what they did. So I'm not coming in with an attitude. So it's why I did the homeschooling was just the difficulty and uh, the propaganda, the lies, the Satanism. It's all throughout. I mean, you trying to raise your family, your children to be God and connected and Jesus connected, and all you do is putting them in Satan's den. I'm sorry to say that, but the public school system is so bad. It's and they've found out that 75% of the Christian God-believing people that go to college come out as atheists. So what do? The college has control over you. If you don't say God is dead, you don't pass the course. So and then everything is evolution. There's no evidence of it, and you try to point that out. So we're sending our children into Satan's den without the preparation. So how can they defend themselves? And that's where I could teach my children the values that I wanted them to have. And that's where the main thing was to be in control. Even though they did go to public school, but we started our own public school. We kind of talk more about that later, but it was a charter school and we had a different definition of that school. So we had much more control of a public school that I took my children to, and then also homeschool and early homeschooling. So, and again, the sign language, you don't even need to know, just figure it out. There's some books on baby sign language, but you can start speaking sign language to them, just obvious things like here is a book. So there's some obvious things that you can just sign to. You don't need to know the true word, but just the communication.
It's very interesting what you said there because we can see that there's propaganda in the school. You know, I mean, I know some parents, it would be hard for them to admit that. You know what I mean? But if we can see that the Lord gave us our children and they are heritage from Him, and we are to nurture not just their physical body, like feeding them, but we also have to nurture their soul, their spirit. And that's where we come in, that my own why I decided to homeschool. Not because I didn't know really how to homeschool. Okay. So at the start, I didn't know really how to homeschool. But my why was when God really spoke to me and really gave me the burden to homeschool and really nudged me really hard to do it. I didn't want to do it at first. It took me like a year to say yes to my husband because at that time I was working in accounts. I was working full time. We have two children already at that time, and my oldest was 4 back then. She's 15 now. Okay, so and it took me a while to answer that call. That she was nearly 5 when I said yes to that call, because I was like thinking, if we're going to be homeschooling, you're thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen with my career then? Then I have to stop working, and then I have to be at home, and then without knowing that you already being programmed in feminism, you know what I mean? That you need to be there to do your career as like priority than being in your home and prioritize your husband and your children, so that all kind of like shifted me. So my why was like when God gave me the words in Deuteronomy 6:4, 5, 6, 7, and the moms that have been listening with my podcast here, I meant to this podcast, sorry, they would have heard that already a lot of times. I said it when Moses said to the Israelites, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. 5, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And then these words that I'm commanding you today shall be in your heart. And then after he said that, he was talking to the parents, because the verse 7 said, And then you shall teach them diligently to your children when you are sitting down, when you are getting up, when you're walking on the road, and when you're lying down. So that kind of like blew my mind when God just like opened, my eyes, just take off the scales there, and just I really see it kind of like, wow. So if you really love me and you're saying that you love me, I want you to teach your children diligently. So that word diligently, I even kind of like really went to the dictionary and dig deeper. What does it mean really diligently? You know what I mean? So do you kind of, oh yeah, diligently, you have to work hard on, but then it's so deep that it kind of like when when I was on my way to work, Tommy, I was on the bus and I was sobbing because I was on my way to work and I was fighting this. I was just like then crying, and I just like, God, just change me. And I still remember that time as if like it was yesterday, because that's the time I made the decision when I was on that bus. I just, Lord, just change me, just change my heart, change my mind, renew my mind. And from then I know my why, and that why kind of like anchored me to keep going when I didn't know what to do, when I'm not sure of the future. I don't know what's gonna happen the next year, but I just take it one day at a time. Yes, I have a plan in the long plan, but every day I kind of like take slow to kind of like overcome the overwhelm, because it's overwhelming for new moms to do that, especially if you have no clue at first. if you don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you have experienced that, Tommy, like you
Well,
kind of, because that was me.
oh yeah. Fear is a good thing. It prevents you from doing things you shouldn't do. But we're only born with two fears. And one fear is a loud noise, and the other one is the fear of falling. The baby will instinctually clutch if it feels you slipping off of you. Everything else was learned. So you learn to fear educating your children. There's a reason that they, who is they, the ones in power, the slave master, Satan, is running the show. So when you're mentioning something that I want to refer to is about the education. I just kind of lost my train of thought there for a second, but it's
Yeah.
oh the purpose. I'll go back to the feminist movement. What happened in the 60s was a feminist movement and into the 70s, and it feminized the men and masculized the women. I'm listening to a talk show and it was late at night and one guy was talking about he hangs out with rich people. And at the party, he happened to mention about the women's movement and they all started laughing. And he said, "Why are you laughing?" He said, "We started that." "What do you mean?" "Yeah, we want women to work in the workforce to lower the wages down. And so we were the ones who created it. Our whole advertising budget, our whole thing was the propaganda and everything shifted that you had to then get out of the home. It was not a good thing to be a mother. And so when they took that direction and took the women out, all you got to do is look at some facts. And that's from a website called Priced, and that's past tense, Priced in Gold, pricedingold.com. And I'll send you a link to that. And it's under
Mm-hmm.
wages. And if you look at the wages in comparison to gold, we topped out in America in 1970. And there is a number there. It's a 3. Doesn't really matter. But what we are now is 0.3. So what that means is it takes 10 people today to work full time to get the wealth that you could have had in 1970 with the husband working and the wife at home. And that's where we peaked
Wow.
out. So there is
Mm-hmm.
no incentive to become a wage worker. That's what we did in 1750, the Industrial Revolution, when we had to go to school and to be educated just enough. And that's
Yes.
what Henry Ford said the schools were all for, was to create a complacent workforce that would ring to
Yes.
a bell. The bell rings, so we go to work. Bell
Yes.
rings, we go pee. Ring the bell, we go eat. Ring the bell, we go pee again. Ring the bell, we leave, and we're
Mm-hmm.
all mice in this little maze. So at a certain point, when you get 30 or 40, you're going, what the hell is life all about? You were lied to, indoctrinated, and
Mm-hmm.
brainwashed into thinking you had to do this. And that's, again, the whole picture of Satan having you destroy. So I'll stop there. I know you got more questions. So,
No, that is so true, because it's kind of like, you then become a slave, because I thought of that as well. Like my husband, because he's a builder. Okay, so he's working full time. He has at that time a small company of his own, and he has a building construction company. And then I'm working full time, and then we have our children being looked after by a woman who is even like a different faith than ours. You know what I mean? So, but she is with my children the whole day, because we have to drop her in the morning. And then by the time we get home, it's already what? 7 o'clock in the evening, 8 o'clock sometimes. And sometimes I have to work in the office. There was even one time my husband have to collect me in the office, because I'm in the office still at 9 p.m., because I was like finishing some deadline, that he took our Mary at that time, and then went to the office to collect me, that she is looking for me. And 9 o'clock, I'm still in the office because I was finishing some deadline. So you can see they're kind of like the time that you're supposed to give to your children. And then I kind of think of, yeah, I'm paying this woman to kind of like, look after my children, to raise my child. And here am I working, and someone else is raising my own children. So then so we decided on it, because that's the mindset. Even when I was growing up, that's kind of like the mindset. I can speak for myself, kind of like in the Philippines, you need to kind of like study. And if you will meet Filipinos, they would have gone to school. I haven't met anyone in the Philippines when I was there that was homeschooled. That's why I said I have no clue with homeschooling. That's why here am I speaking about it, because I didn't have any clue at all. And then coming over here in Ireland with a different educational system, I wouldn't have a clue. You know what I mean? So it's totally a big challenge for me to do that. But then when you understand, like what I said, I go back to my why you're doing it, then that kind of like keep you going. When you understand what is happening in the government, when you understand all of this thing, you know what I mean? That sometimes some people don't want to talk about, because you're kind of like doom and gloom when you talk about it. But then when you just want to speak about the truth of what's going on, because the Lord even says you have to watch and pray, and you have to prove all things. And he said, he said it in his word, let no man deceive you. So you want them to kind of like study and see what's going on, and we can see it right in front of our eyes. The book of Revelation is being fulfilled. I know we're not talking about prophecies, but then if we're going to be like discerning and we want our children to have a strong foundation of faith, then let's take our own responsibility, take them out and train them in the ways of the Lord. So that's what I wanted to share there, because, Tommy, there's loads of common fears or misconceptions that, parents that they have. Do you want to clear any of that, or have you heard any
Oh, sure.
of that before in your journey?
Right. I want to give you one quote, which would be Jeremiah 9:6. We live in the midst of deception. So if we are doing God's work, we're going to be attacked all the time by Satan, all the time. And if you're not being attacked, then you're doing Satan's work. You better stop and go,
Yes.
why is it so easy? Well, that's because you're doing Satan's work. So that's the thing, that there's that deception, and it's in the school. And so I wear a pair of glasses. Okay. My glasses, I am a theist. That's the first pair of glasses I wear. And so what I want to kind of give your audience is somehow some way that you can counter an atheist as an anti-theist. Is that funny? The word theist is the ist. So ist is kind of like a description of somebody, and it's the, and it's our word for God. It's the word. So I've always asked people, how do you deal with an atheist? And they say, oh, I do this, I do that. I just give up. I don't even, what's bother? And I said, here's two simple things. You can ask them just two questions. You say, can I ask you two questions? And they, sure, why not? So I said, what's the definition of create? And they can look up. I don't care. It's make, produce, or come about, right? Then can I ask you a second question? They'll say, sure. Were you created? What are they going to say? They've got to say
Mm-hmm.
yes. Okay, but they have,
Yeah.
remember, they have been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed. So we have to go gentle with these people. So once they
Yes.
agree to that, then we say in English, we have the word, the letters EE that we say after a word that means lesser, and OR that means like superior, like a lease. You can have a lease E and a lease or, a trust E, a trust or you can be governed by a governor. So if you are a createe, then you've got to agree that there's a creator. So
Yes.
they've got to agree with you there. And
Interesting. Yeah.
then you got to
Mm-hmm.
go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I know you're making a big step. So just be calm with me. Okay. Let's say God is a noun. Okay. Then what is a noun? And they'll say a person, place, or thing. Great. So if it's a person, then you can relate to it. So we can relate to God who looks like us. But if you're in India and you have that elephant, the arms coming out, to someone like me to go over there to start believing that but if I brought up into that, I would think it's normal. So that's again that. So it's, if you want to have it appear like us, could we connect better if we think God looks like us? That's fine. A person, but a place. God could be a place, and now I could say to him, "Where is God?" Well, it could be everywhere, right? It could be, the space between the nucleus and the electron is huge. It's like 20 miles in comparison with the size and stuff. So all that stuff is not empty. That's where God is, and that's where heaven is. It doesn't really matter. Or it's a thing. Okay, what could God be a thing? Water. Can you have life without water? No. Well, why couldn't God be water? And you can look that up on the internet, and it has a whole bunch better argument of how God is water, and it's in everything, and you're part of it. It's part of you. Now, you could say God could be a verb. Okay, what's a verb? An action word. There you go. So God could be energy. It could be electricity. We don't know what electricity is. Light. We have no idea what light is. They tell us how speed it is, but that's only an average. And there's arguments that I can tell you that actually is faster or it's instantaneous. And when you describe gravity, it's instantaneous, it's everywhere. You're describing God. So you can make that into that. Or it's a concept. You can say God's a concept. What I say, it's beyond thought. It's not possible for me to tell you what God is. Now, I do have an advantage. I may have it over you. I may have it over some of your audience members, but I have crossed over. And I don't say I had a near death experience, but I wasn't here. So I don't describe it. It's not possible for me to describe it, but it's a love that you have in every cell of my body that I have felt this love and this peace.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to come back. That's common. Everybody says, fine, I'm being here. The music, the cover, the scent, everything is so magnified that you see everything in a sense. And you don't want to come back, but I was forced to come back. And I read a book and it was told us perennials. And I've never heard that term before. And it described how we kind of look at things differently. Religion, philosophy, spiritualism isn't that important anymore. What's important is we do a moral thing. And we're not there to push it and shove it in people's face. We live by a higher moral code for other people to follow us. So that's my first pair of glasses I wear. And so I was able to try to help your audience because when your child is going to these atheists and there's a college professor saying you got to write God is dead, Mr. Professor, may I ask you a couple questions? Sure, they love questions. Can you define create? And they'll go into look it up. There you go. And were you created? They got to say yes. So you don't have to have them believe your religion. You don't have to believe your thing, but just to have them start to question. And that's the stopping of the brainwashing. And now you can deal with the lies that led into generationally that we like to indoctrinate. The second pair of glasses I wear is that we became slaves 10 to 12,000 years ago. And that's what I believe. I believe something came here and enslaved the Adam and Eves that were all around the world. And they forced us into cities. They forced us into farming. And so we're wage slaves or debt slaves today. So there is ways of getting out of this to become a sovereign in a slave system. I know, but that's what we can talk about further later on. But that's where we need to educate these parents that you don't have to be the educator knows everything. You just have to have the desire. If you've got desire,
Yes.
teach them what you know. And what you don't know, you bring them to people who do know, but who are going to be aligned with your philosophy, with your point of view. And that's how you reach out and you find people who are very talented in mathematics to English. And you can't trust this chat GPT. It's Satan's work. So garbage in, garbage out. So you got to be very careful. But nowadays, we don't need to have this knowledge of repeating facts. What they need is the ability to defend themselves against Satan and go, because love in Hebrew means I give, and and then mercy means extreme kindness. So if you want to do the teachings of the two new commandments that Rabbi Jesus taught on the Mount, that is a two commandments, is love and mercy. And love means I give. So if you're giving, God gave us life. What a wonderful gift. Yeah, I have an
Amen.
attitude of gratitude every single day. But anyone who's not growing food, raising animals, helping other people, they're not loving. And I don't want to be around them. I just move. I have a short amount of time, and I want to spend my time with people who are believers, who are in love with God, and knowing that that's what we're doing. We're giving. So I'm trying to give to you. You're giving to me a platform that I can chat with you and your audience. So that's where I wear these
Yeah.
two glasses, and that's back to your mention your slavery. We can break out of that, and there's methods, there's ways of doing it. Not easy, but it's simple. Not easy, but it's simple.
Thank you for sharing that, Tommy, because even our own mentalities enslaves us. If we won't let Jesus and his word really free us, you know what I mean? So, and I like what you said there when you said, it's very important for us to be surrounded with people that actually, you're going to grow I mean, like, it's not like you don't want those other people. I mean, you try to show mercy because that's what Jesus did. Like what you were saying there, he showed compassion. He's a merciful God. But those people that have faith, Jesus himself also noticed it. Woman, great is your faith. You know what I mean? So when we have faith in the Lord, that's why I have my podcast as Christian homeschool mom, because I'm specific to those Christian moms that would have faith. It might not be a great faith, it might be a small faith, but if you have faith, we can all grow together. That's why I'm telling you, moms, if you are liking this podcast, like, subscribe, leave a comment. We can grow together because then we can be a community, of mothers that are nurturing our children, because there's not a lot of community out there for Christian homeschooling moms just to grow and encourage and empower. Because if we're going to be talking with other moms that are of a different mindset, if you talk that you're homeschooling, like, why are you homeschooling? You know what I mean? So I've talked with this one mom over on the phone because I have a query with our bill, and because the school is back already here in Ireland, and she heard my baby because I said to her, sorry, I have my baby, so apologies for the noise because my baby's talking to me. And she was like, oh, I know, I can't wait, because at that time the school is going to be back like the next week. I can't wait that my children will be now gone to school. I just can't, I just can't have them around me, you know. And I felt so sad in my heart for a mom to say that she can't wait to just like give her children away to the system so she can have like peace already, so there will be no more noise in her house. Because I have my baby, like I'm holding my baby and my baby's like talking to me at the same time while I'm talking to her on the phone. You know what I mean? So that's why I just felt my mama heart just kind of like felt so broken. But that's it, when you kind of like slave of that mentality as well, that I've asked many times, like, how do you get your time? Especially when they found out I have 5 children and I'm homeschooling, and you have, and many moms have told me whenever they see me, they would be like, oh, your hands is full, as if like, you know, and I would kind of like say it in a positive way. And I would say, yes, my hands, it's full of blessings, and they kind of like look at me like, yeah, but that's it. You need to kind of like surround yourself, moms. Let's say if you're thinking of homeschooling, surround yourself with moms that are, you know, thinking of homeschooling, that are, if you're not homeschooling because you can't do it for different reasons. I know there's other reasons why some can't, because I've heard some reasons, still surround yourself with moms that will be passionate, that will really make time and intentionally give their time to train their children, to still talk to their children the ways of the Lord. Because, like what you said there, we don't have a lot of time here on earth. At the end of the
You're
day,
limited.
there's only two words I want to hear from the Lord at the end of the day. Good, well, 3 words then. Good and faithful servant. So I just want to hear that. Well done is the 2 words.
Yep.
And then add the 3 words, good and
Good
faithful
job.
servant. I just want to hear well done. That's all
Yep.
I want to hear. And that's why this podcast is here, because I just want to encourage moms, because all of us, whether we like it or not, we have that feeling that we want to raise our children. We're just afraid sometimes. We don't know how to do it. We don't know, can we even do it? The devil is the accuser of the brethren. Keep like talking to you and telling you, you know what I mean? So different things. What is there anything else you want to add there, Tommy? Am I making sense?
Yes, absolutely. I'm right with you. There's so many things I could take in different directions, but it's
Yeah.
going to the moms who are in fear. And I'm telling you, it's the right thing to have. That fear is proper to have because it's things you shouldn't be doing. But then you got to ask yourself, is there a higher calling to this? And there certainly is. You have to give this knowledge to your children to be able to battle what we've got going on. And that's by abdicating, you're not helping. You're working to make it worse for us all. So what you do is you teach what you know, and you're a student of what you don't know. Since I know so little, because every time I learn something, I realize I don't know nothing. I have barely scratched the surface. But how you learn and how you multiply your knowledge is by dividing. And so I had a niece over just a few days ago, And I said, what's something you know about? And she talked about like music. I said, okay, what can you divide music in half? And she said, oh, okay, well, it could be like you playing it yourself or you're playing with a band. Yeah, see, that's a great division. So I can play music by myself or I can play with other people. And then you can't keep dividing, and now you have more and more knowledge. So the student only can learn so much from a teacher, but the teacher has to anticipate questions they're never going to be asked, and they have to answer questions they never anticipated being asked. So as a teacher, you have to learn more than a student. So here I'm encouraging your audience to learn more, to study more, and share what they know. And that's a great way that you can do that in the kitchen. All your math, all your science, all your history can all be done
Yeah.
in the kitchen. If you're into cooking, what are you into? You could
Yeah.
be very good at English. Well, that's great. I'm not. Well, you're an author. You should know. I don't know English. I can barely speak it. But what I do is I write what I think I want to express, and then I have somebody who knows English that rewrites it for me. It's called an editor. So they take my garbage and make it into a great book. So you don't have to be proficient in English. You can have other
Yeah.
people who are very happy about English. And what I can do is I can show you mathematically. If you have to write a 100 word essay, you divide it up and you find out how many words there are in a paragraph. And you got 2 or 3 paragraphs. So you have an introduction and you have your closing and you have a topic sentence and you have 3 sentences and you need to talk about 3 facts. It's so simple when you mathematically use that to discern how to write these papers. But now with ChatGPT, who needs a school when you can just have it write the paper? And then who needs a teacher when you can have ChatGPT correct it? So we're in a whole new world, and that's what I'm into is the free revolution. There's a very good guy. His name is Myron Golden, and he's on YouTube. He's a kind of like a he's not really a preacher, but he teaches preachers. It's kind of a weird thing. He does do some preaching, but he has a lot of biblical knowledge. And he
Yeah.
had a video out, and I'll send a link to you, and it's the easiest way to become wealthy now than ever. So he goes through the different revolutions, the agricultural revolution, and then the distribution revolution, agricultural revolution, industrial revolution. And that's what we're still suffering under. People think they got to get a job. No, there's a guy who didn't even graduate high school, who has a nice phone, and maybe he's got some money and he went to pick a place, Israel, doesn't matter. He's on the street and he's interviewing people with his phone. He's making $1 million a month. And now he's got so much money, he travels around the world. He's not a journalist. He didn't even finish high school, but you don't have to. This is the thing. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to ask for permission. I write books, and in 3 days, it's on Amazon, sold worldwide. And they do all the printing, they do all the publishing, they do all the marketing, they do all the selling. They send me a check. So it's a different world now. So you got to get yourself out of thinking that you have to have permission to do everything, and you have to go to college. Look at all the college graduates that don't have a job. And I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a CPA, but that's what I went to school for.
That is so true because the information we have now is just in our fingertips compared to before. So all the
Right.
information it's there already. So we just need to have discerning, so we need to be discerning on what we would like to use, because there's lots of information out there.
What I'm
Go
saying
ahead.
is that what are you interested in, Mom? But then what is your child interested in? There are many
Yeah.
different learning modalities. Some do very well in book work and they're going to be an attorney. So there you go. You got to do the attorney stuff to get that kind of a job. But there's a lot of people who like to take things apart and put it back together again. And they're never really book smart, but they have the conception. So what you could do with a child who likes to take things apart is what are they interested in? They could be interested in computers.
Yeah.
Okay. Link them up with
Yeah.
someone who's a nearby person who does computer repair and show them, have your child intern with this person. So they can then open up their own repair shop. Because if you're into computers, you
Hmm.
have people bring you their computer. Can you put a new hard drive in? Sure. You put a new hard drive in. What are you doing with the old one? I don't care. It's yours. Well, now you got a hard drive. Well, this thing here, I want a newer one. So they replace the board. Now you have a computer board, and now you have an extra case. And pretty soon you got your own computer that you could put together the parts that you got for free and then sell it. So from a child in the province in let's say in Manila, outside of Manila, an hour drive outside of Manila, it's the province, and that's poverty, right? They live on $10 a day if they're lucky. So I can take a child who's 10, 12 years old and have them connect them to one of those motorcycle repair shops that repair all the motorcycles and all the trikes, and they can spend years learning how to do all that and then help them open their own. And then now they got people that bring their motorcycle to
Yeah.
them to fix it, and they don't show up. Well, you got a motorcycle. You have people that leave and they leave it behind, and you're the so whatever you're interested in, be a repair
Yes.
person so that you get all the parts and all the business. That's not something you're going to do forever. It's the way to gain enough money to buy some land, to put up a free house of bamboo and mud. So I teach people how to build a mud house too, because a farmer taught me how to build a mud house. And so you have a house goes up in a day, and with my bamboo butt, and then you do vertical gardening, which is free food, and you have your free medical care. You don't have to live in a city. You don't have to get a job. You don't have to be a wage worker to make money to pay for your food. No, we should be growing our own food and sharing it with other people. And that's how I have a whole idea of how I'm going to help the Filipino people here in the Philippines.
That's actually very good. That's very like good thing to do because you're teaching as well entrepreneurship, you know what I mean? So how they can be entrepreneur, how they can be self-sufficient with the gardening, vertical gardening, because you're growing your own food. You're not putting in insecticides, pesticides in it, you know what I mean? So if you have the land to do that, I mean, you can feed your whole family and the others. If you have bigger land, you know what I mean, you can share what you also have, and you can kind of like do a barter like what they used to do before. So that's
That's
the
what
good
I'm
thing on it
getting at.
because
So yeah,
yes, exactly. So
the dome house, after they learn how to put up a dome house, what I do is I teach them how to open their own business. So now they just
mhm,
ask the person who wants a dome or a tunnel, doesn't have to be a dome house, but a tunnel, what is the width or the height in meters or in feet? Just give me one number. And on the website that you go to, it's a free website that has a calculator. It tells you all the parts you need. So they cut them, drill a hole through it, and it comes to the job site with zip ties. There's no tools needed for this whole construction. We built an 8-meter dome, 25-foot dome in 4 hours. One person can do this by themselves. And if you have 4 people, it goes up
wow.
in an hour. So you have an instant home, you have an instant garden, you have a greenhouse, you have a storage, you have a thing to have a chicken tractor to put your chickens in so they don't get eaten. They move them around so they can peck and all the bugs and eat the grass and live a good life. So we can do that here.
Yeah, maybe you can do that here too in Ireland.
I'm
You
test
know?
marking it
So
here because it's so expensive and so
yeah,
negative in America. I had to come to the Philippines. So my plan is I went to the market today and bought some carrots, or some bananas. And what I want is the really, really ripe bananas that are great for banana bread, right? So I want to make banana
yeah,
bread in a commercial kitchen. So I've got a couple connections. I'm going to reach out to them this week, tomorrow. I'm going to talk to the owner of a restaurant, say, can I use your restaurant when it's not open? Because I don't want to impose on them. And well, can I pay you? I don't have much, but can I pay you something? I can pay you more later, but give me a chance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that bananas into banana bread, put it in a nice pretty box. It's called Art You Eat Gallery. Yeah, I I I went to a food show here in Iloilo, and there was a culinary school from Cebu, which is an island away, and it's 150,000 pesos, so like $7,000 to go for a year for only 4 hours a day, and you'll come out as a chef. Wonderful. What I'm going to be offering is people that want to be a chef, but I want you to be an artistic chef. Okay, that's my angle. So I'm going to offer them free
Yes.
room and board
Mhm.
and an allowance. They got to have some money to live, right? But they live with me in the soon to be restaurant. But it's a gallery, it's an art gallery. They'll live there, they'll eat there, and all I want them to do is cook all day and bake all night. So we're going to have a box that looks very pretty and it says art you eat and it's going to say banana bread. And I take that banana bread back to the merchant who I bought the bananas from. And I said, here, it's a gift from me to you. And now they could sell that and make an extra $10, and that doubles their income. I'm bringing them a finished food product that has a lot more value than a banana does. Banana bread, they'll pay more for it, and they'll pay money more pesos. So I give it to them. Then they say, "What can I do for you?" Back to the barter. I have 3 buckets. When you scrape out the papaya, I want the papaya seeds because I can sprout them, and that's my
Yeah.
breakfast. I can have sprouts. I can have greens that I can be selling. I also want another bucket of your scraps. All day long, you're cutting up stuff, you're splitting scraps. And I want that for my pigs, my chickens, my goats. And if it's too bad, I feed my soil. So you're feeding the earth and the animal and the crops. And then I want a third bucket of things that are edible, but you're just not going to be able to sell it. It's got blemishes, or it's not going to last another day. It's going to rot. It's going to mold tomorrow.
Yeah.
Give that to me today, and I'll bring you back. And that's the exchange I want. I want it to be unequal. I want them to give me their garbage, their trash that they're going to throw away anyway, and I'll bring them back finished good. I can double or triple their income. So I need the food to the chefs to learn
Yes.
what to do with all this too long. It's that eggplant. So I bring them back 100 pounds of eggplants about to rot. What are you going to do with it? I know, good problem to have. So now the chef has got to figure out, how am I going to make this into a finished good? And then we have it to take back to places and give it to them. It's the free revolution. And I'll share some things with you that way too. So I want this to be a whole different concept of how we can live together in a community with morals and values, because there is no morals and values when you want the dollar, when you're chasing the peso, when all you want is the British pound. You cut your morals and values, and it's awful. What we want to do is get back to God's mother nature and exchange our
Yeah.
surpluses. But we can produce
I
a
actually,
huge amount if we're allowed to.
and that's actually one of the things that we can also teach our children. That's one of the beauty of homeschooling. Let's say me and our children, we taught them how to plant seeds. We do gardening. So they know how they can plant potatoes. So this year they planted, my children, they were the ones who planted the potatoes in our back garden. But the last year, because my husband, they have a garden, in my father-in-law's, and we planted a lot of potatoes, in the countryside. But we didn't do it this year. But my children, for years now, we've been doing gardening for like 5, 6 years now, and they are the one who planted the apples, so that they were even able to sell some baby apple trees, because they grew it, and then some lemons. But that's also one of the skill that you can teach your children. This is how you plant seeds, this is how you do gardening, because these are skills that they can bring with them. It's not just teaching them academics, and I always say that homeschooling is not just academics, you know what I mean? So you're teaching them like real life skills. Either it is cooking, either it is washing, cleaning up. That's all part of being a responsible young adult up to they come to a stage that they're going to be leaving your home and be their own father and mother. So they've learned all of these skills. You taught them how to think, you taught them how to believe in God, so homeschooling, you're shaping them, y- and and you're shaping their heart, your soul, their mind, and you're shaping them for eternity. So if you're going to teach all of that, when you let go of your children, when the time is right, they will be so ready to kind of like do something that they know is the will of God for them to do. Because my children would sometimes ask me, Mommy, what do you want me to do? And I would tell them, I want you to do what God wanted you to do. So, and then I said, I know what you like doing. Yeah, Mommy, I want to do this. And I like, yeah, so let's see how we can improve that. You know what I mean? So when you said that, let's say one of my child, he said, Mommy, I want to be a diver because he loves swimming. You know what I mean? So we all of my children, they went to swimming classes because that's one of the skills that we wanted them to learn, swimming. But he wanted to be really good in swimming, that he's already in advance, that we're already waiting for him to really get to the next level because that's what he wants to do. He wants to go and be a diver. But mommy, I want to also do this. Okay. So we'll do the best we can. And then, we'll let God guide you in the path that he wanted you to go.
Yeah.
So my
It's
daughter,
funny.
she likes
It's
singing. So that's what she likes to do. So
yeah.
we wanted her to do music. She likes guitar. So we let her learn a bit of guitar, how to play guitar. So it's just different child. They have different things that they want to learn, and we are here to support them and give them that environment so they can thrive and grow. Sorry,
And
you're saying something
no,
there.
yeah, so it's funny you mentioned about diver, and I became a scuba diver at 13. I was born and raised in Long Beach, California, near Los Angeles. And then at 14,
Lovely.
I was actually at the dive shop and playing in the pool, and they got a phone call from Hollywood needing 2 extras. And so my friend and I were sent over to Catalina Island, and we were in a scuba movie and just as extras and stuff. And then at 15, I started working as a diver, scraping barnacles off of boats. So I was
Wow.
making $165 a week, and my friends at McDonald's were making about 30. So I was really well paid for a job. And I became a commercial diver again when I was about 23. So, yep.
And you love
It,
it. You also love what you're
oh,
doing. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. So you kind of like love. It's not like I felt like I was kind of like, you're at work, but because you have to go to work because that will pay your bills. That will pay your mortgage. You
work.
know what I mean? So you just, you have to go to work. You have to go to the office. You have to show up, because although you have this thing, but it's just, you have to do it. So it kind of like, it gives you that thing, like what you said earlier, you don't need to know it all. And I don't
Right.
know it all. And I thought I had to be perfect to homeschool. Then I learned, no, I didn't have to be. So there were things that my daughter was like doing in math, and because she's already in high school, and even I myself was scratching myself, that I have to actually talk to a tutor, and I was saying to her, I think I need your help with her thing. So that's a good thing. I mean, there's people that you can reach out if you don't need to know it all. Let's say they're having a problem, either it's composition, writing essay, mathematics, that you can actually, get someone else that is a tutor that could help them in their subjects that they're struggling with. And I think that's the beauty of it. Is still you are in control of what your children are learning. I like what Nikki Truesdale, she also wrote a book, Anyone Can Homeschool, and she was one of my guests in this podcast. And she said, like in her book, that as a parent, you're holding the wheel of basically you are in control of your children's education. And that's a great thing to know, that you know what they're doing, that they're not being indoctrinated with all of this agenda, that they can be a boy, they can be a girl, they can be a cat, dog, or whatever, and all the lies of the evolution. Like what Body Welcome said, if you send your children to Caesar, don't be surprised if they come back as Romans, so
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. So I know we don't have a lot of time, Tom, but I want to ask you just two more questions, because you homeschool your children. Looking back, how are they now? Are you like glad that you did homeschool your children, or do you think they missed something? Were you regretting it that you homeschool your children?
Phenomenal. My son, we started our own public school when he was 5. He entered into school, kindergarten, but he was so advanced, they moved him in first grade. So he skipped a year, kind of like what I did too. But
Yeah.
then he graduated at 17. He got a near free ride at Drexel, which is a university in Philadelphia, and he became an engineer with a master's in 4 years. So he is doing extremely well. My daughter, we had her in the school, and then each year we had to decide, is it for us to be in this charter school? So we decided to pull her out and homeschool her for 2 years, and then she kind of got straightened out in a sense, and then went to high school. But she interned with an ear, nose, and throat specialist, and she became a speech language pathologist. So she's done very well. So it's again, you don't have to be the expert. Just find out what their passion is and direct them and lead them to where they need to go. And that's all you got to do, is just create the foundation there. of a fertile soil. Make it fertile for them to grow and let them be who they are.
If you have one word of encouragement to those moms or dads that is thinking of homeschooling or maybe already homeschooling, but they're overwhelmed, what would that be?
Two things I would say. One, a mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So Eve and I are talking to you, audience, is just open the possibility that you have been indoctrinated not to be a homeschooling parent because you are threatening a system. So if you're not going to be having your child indoctrinated into the whole system, you're back to, like you said, a Roman. And then the other one is to have to ask the question, is it possible that you've been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed? And if it's possible, me too, of course it is. So a lie is a lie, but it's told generationally. That's where we've got to stop that. And if you don't question it, then you're brainwashed. And we can't help you. Start to question. That's all we want you to do is have an open mind and question. And then you'll have your lies that you see right in front of you, what they're teaching in school. You don't need to send your children to lies, to Satan. Basically, that's what I draw the line between good and evil, and it's always between God and Satan. So I want to be with people that are loving, giving, growing, nurturing, and showing extreme kindness. And that's what the Filipino people are to me. I say they're God's chosen people because they're so happy. And I ask anyone and everyone, and I always get the same answer. I have done it for 9 months. I get the same answer every time. Why are you so happy? Some are quick with the answer. The other ones have to stop and think about it, but they always say one word: family. You've got family. I don't. I now have family, so I am very happy. So what can I do to give back to these wonderful people? So that's why I'm here in the Philippines. I encourage you to come here, check it out, and see what it's like, and to be connected to people who really value family is number one.
Thank you. And Tom, would you like to share your website, where they can find you, please?
Oh, sure. Tommy A. Kilpatrick on Facebook. And in the show notes will be some things there for you if you want to get in touch with me with my email and stuff and talk about anything you want to talk about. I'm retired. I got plenty of time. So give me a message and we'll chat.
Lovely. And also I'm gonna put mom's his website links in our show notes today. So if you find moms this episode encouraging to you, can I ask you a favor? Can you please share it to your mama friend who will also be encouraged with this episode? And if you can like and subscribe, like I said, leave a comment, So if you have any question, leave a comment. I'll be more than happy to help. And also, if you're thinking of homeschooling, but you have fears that's stopping you, I have a free guide that you can download and you can just read through it. And if you want to book a session with me so we can just have a game plan how I can help you start your homeschooling journey, send me a message, book a schedule, and I'll be more than happy to help you. And Tom, before we end this podcast, can I ask you to pray for the moms and dads that are listening, please?
Oh, good. Dear Jesus, please pass on your knowledge and your wisdom to us so we can follow you and do what is right. Amen.
Yes. Amen. Tommy, thanks again for your time today. And moms, thank you again. And Lord willing, I'll see you next week. God bless. Bye-bye.